Hi, I'm Chris Larson, and I'm one of the clinical psychology faculty members here in the psychology department at UWM. And one of the questions I get asked all the time is, how can I become a therapist? How can I provide counseling and psychological therapy services for people? And what I'd like to do here is give you a super high level overview of the different paths you could take. There's quite a few, and this isn't meant to be in depth. So please just use this information to know what your options are and then follow up and get more information. So once upon a time, if you wanted to provide psychotherapy services and get licensed as a psychotherapist, you needed to have a PhD in clinical psychology. And you can still do that. There's just lots more options now. So I'm going to start by talking about the options at the doctoral level. So as I said before, you could earn a PhD in clinical psychology. You can also earn a PhD in counseling psychology. Here at UWM, the counseling psychology department is located in the School of Education, which is true at lots of campuses. The two fields used to differ a bit more, but over time they've merged to become very similar, and both clinical and counseling psychologists work to provide mental health care for people having mental health concerns. Both of these degrees require at least 4 to 5 years on campus, plus a 1 year full-time clinical internship that is often somewhere else. So they're usually 5 or 6 year long degrees, and both involve conducting research. The PhD at its core is a research degree, and so you'll learn to do science and conduct scientific experiments and research projects while also learning to do clinical work. So it's a pretty busy degree since you're basically doing two types of degrees in one. You may have heard that getting into clinical and counseling psychology doctoral programs is competitive. It is. For example, here at UWM, in our clinical program, we usually receive about 250 applications each year and admit 5 or 6 students. And if you're looking for a PhD, getting research experience prior to applying is the single most important thing that you could do to improve your chances, as it is more of a science-focused degree. At the doctoral level, there's another kind of doctoral degree that you could pursue to become a psychotherapist, and that's a PsyD, short for psychology doctorate. And you can earn a PsyD in either clinical or counseling psychology, just like the PhDs. And here again, it's usually about 4 years on campus, plus that 1 year clinical internship that I mentioned before. So again, about a 5 year full-time process. And the big difference here is that with the PhD, where there's a heavy emphasis on research and science alongside the clinical training, that balance is just shifted in the PsyD, so the focus is much more on the clinical training. You still do a dissertation, so you do some research in a PsyD program, but the balance is shifted more towards the clinical training, like I just said. So those are the doctoral degrees you could pursue. At the master's level, there's a number of options. I'm not going to go through all of them, just some of the most prominent. So for many years now, it's been possible to earn a Master's of Social Work, or an MSW, and become licensed to provide psychotherapy in all 50 states. You would be in a field called clinical social work, as opposed to more case management work that some social workers do. So the MSW is typically a 2 year degree, and again focuses on coursework and clinical training. Another master's degree you could consider is a master's in marriage and family therapy, which will also allow you to become licensed to practice psychotherapy with couples, with families, but also with individuals, and as well as working with both kids and adults. So it's pretty flexible in that way. And that again is typically a 2 year degree. And the last degree I'll mention is a master's in counseling psychology, or clinical health mental counseling, or community psychology. It goes by a variety of names, but basically a master's in psychology that has a counseling or mental health focus. And Over the years, the possibilities for this degree have evolved. It used to be that in most states you couldn't become licensed as a psychotherapist with a master's in psychology, but that is changing fairly rapidly. So I'd encourage you to look into your options in the state you would be hoping to be licensed in. For example, in Wisconsin, you can become a licensed professional counselor. So a different title than a licensed psychotherapist, but providing the exact same kinds of services. So at the master's level, I mentioned the MSW, Masters of Social Work, the Masters of Marriage and Family Therapy, and the Masters of Counseling or Clinical Mental Health Counseling. So hopefully that gives you a place to start. I would encourage you to check out the web page on the undergraduate tab under graduate school and career resources. There's links to lots of information about preparing for graduate school and a career in clinical mental health services. Thanks a lot.